Okay, we're just going to get started. This is great. Hello and welcome. I'm Carissa Youssef, Executive Director at One Day's Wages, and I'm so glad that you're here with us today. Whether you've been part of the One Day's Wages community for years or whether you've just joined more recently, thank you. And at One Day's Wages, we believe that you, our giving community, are not just donors. We see you as teammates. We see you as stakeholders in a mission that's both beautiful and urgent to alleviate extreme poverty by coming alongside local leaders around the world. The mission is easy to believe in, but it's much harder to make room for in our daily lives. So the fact that you're here today, that you've chosen to give your time, your attention, and for many of you, your hard-earned money, it speaks volumes to us, and we're just so grateful for you. We believe that you are embodying compassion and that you're showing generosity, goodness, and care for the vulnerable still has a place in this world, and that matters deeply to us. We believe that moments like this, joining together in a town hall, are worth investing into because you are worth investing into. This is a space for you to stay connected, ask questions, and to better understand the impact of your giving. So here's what you can expect over the next hour. We're going to start in just a minute with some introductions of our incredible team. I want you to meet the people working behind the scenes every day. Then we're going to look back for a few minutes over 2024 and some of the important work that we were able to accomplish together, both operationally and through our global partnerships. And then from there, we're going to look ahead. We're going to share about some of the partnerships that we currently have, and what we're hoping for and dreaming of, and how you can be a part of what's next. And then finally, we're going to open it up for questions. So if there's something that you're dying to ask, or maybe you have a question during the presentation, feel free at any time to just put a question into the Q&A tab that should be at the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can live. And for any questions that we might miss, we'll definitely follow up on after the call. We are recording today's session for those that aren't able to make it live, and so we'll send out that link as well in the next coming days. So again, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. Let's get started. So before we dive in, I'd like you to meet our small but mighty team. We're lean crew, 2 full-time and 2 part-time staff. We also have phenomenal volunteers and interns that work with us that all together, we just pour our hearts into this work every single day. So I'm going to invite my colleagues to take just a brief moment to introduce themselves.
Hi there, I'm Chrissy Drape. I'm the part-time finance director. I live in Seattle. I've been a long-time fan and supporter of One Day's Wages and came on staff for real last year. My favorite thing to do is probably walk, take a good walk. And yesterday in Seattle was a classic spring day. The sun came out. My husband and I went to go walk around Seward Park, and halfway around it started pouring. And by the time we finished our walk, we were soaked to the skin and laughing. So Seattle spring in a nutshell.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Chrissy.
My name is Sarah Burkhalter. I'm the part-time operations coordinator at ODW. Joined on this past year, and I'm grateful to be in this space doing and learning so much. I also live in Seattle with my husband and 2 boys, ages 10 and 13, and spend most of my non-ODW time watching soccer of some sort between the members of my family. We are at any time of the year on at least 4 teams, and then there's at least half a dozen more that we're rooting for and attending and watching games. So that in itself is a full-time job.
That's awesome. Thanks, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daphne Fowler. I'm the Global Impact Director at One Day's Wages. And I live in Atlanta with my husband and 2 tween daughters who are 10 and 12. One of the things I love doing in my spare time is gardening, or attempting to garden and experiment with different vegetables and herbs. And I got really, really nerdy about it this year and bought plant labels. And my garden beds are like a foot from our curb, so everyone walking by can see them. So now everyone's walking by looking at the names of all the plants, but I restrained myself and did not use the scientific names, just the common names. So that was my compromise.
Oh, Daphne, that's awesome. And I have so much to learn from you about gardening. I've also been working on that myself this year as sort of my pastime. I find my downtime, if I can use my hands and not my mind, that it's just really restorative for me. But yeah, I have so much to learn about that for sure. So thank you for sharing. And as you know, I'm Carissa Youssef. I'm the executive director here at One Day's Wages, and I just feel so privileged to work with this team and to do this work. On a personal note, I've been married to my husband, Bob, 19 years this fall, and we have two really amazing girls. Allie is 15, and Abigail just turned 13 last week. So they really inspire me to lean into this work, as our goal, ultimately, our vision is for a more just and beautiful world. So that's our team. So we're going to spend just a few minutes now highlighting 2024. And it was a really, really special year for us as a nonprofit. We celebrated our 15-year anniversary. And that naturally provided itself an opportunity for strategic reflection on our purpose and our mission. About a year ago, in May last year, our leadership team took time to revisit and nuance our mission statement, not because the core of our work has changed, but because we wanted to really articulate more clearly how we do what we do and why it matters so much in this space and at this time. So our refined mission reads as One Day's Wages exists to alleviate extreme poverty by investing in, amplifying, and coming alongside locally led organizations in underserved communities. And as I shared just a little bit ago here, I've spent the majority of my career in poverty alleviation work. And I deeply believe that how we do this work matters a great deal. In fact, it was this belief for me that ultimately helped me choose to join One Day's Wages, because I so resonate with how this work is accomplished. I think there's something really special about the way that One Day's Wages approaches poverty alleviation through partnership. And so I just wanted to briefly highlight some of the work that we did last year, some of our just strategy work, by outlining our guiding principles. So first, it's important to know about One Day's Wages is that we work through mutual partnerships. We start by recognizing that there is powerful community-driven work already underway around the world. So instead of launching our own programs, we choose to stand behind local leaders, those who live the challenges in their communities and own and drive the solutions to those problems. Our role is to listen and then to come alongside as allies, fundraisers, and lifelong learners. Every partnership that we establish is grounded in solidarity and two-way learning. We share resources and platforms, and our partners shape the agenda of the work, budgets, and success metrics. Together, we amplify what our partners are already achieving and really deliberately return the decision-making power back to people closest to the issues that we're trying to address. So you'll hear the word locally led, local solutions quite a bit. We're really passionate about it. We fund local solutions. We believe that local leaders best understand the unique needs of their communities, and that community-led projects result in sustainable impact. There was a study done from 2016 to 2019, and this is the last time in our research that there's been a comprehensive study on US foundation grants. So in this study from 2016 to 2019, only 13% of US foundation grants went directly to organizations in the country where the work was happening. And because of this, we are so committed to shifting funding and decision-making power to the local leaders who are making a difference in their communities. We want to see that percentage increase. We want to be a part of that. That's why we wire our grants directly to these local organizations. There's no intermediaries, there's no go-betweens. We build relationship and we support directly. All of the funds we raise for projects, minus credit card fees, go to our partner organizations. So we're really proud of that. And third, we recognize that there's a need to really integrate different components to the interventions in poverty alleviation. Extreme poverty often manifests itself in many layers. It's complicated. There's lots of layers. According to the Multidimensional Poverty Index, over 1 billion people face 3 or more basic deprivations at the same time. And because poverty is so complex, we need to make sure that when these issues overlap, we're addressing as many of them as we can. So we partner with organizations that focus on improving access to multiple essential services in a community. So for example, if we're funding a water project, it's going to naturally include many other project components, which is exciting. Fourth, we prioritize reducing vulnerabilities. We recognize that there are people in certain contexts that are especially vulnerable to extreme poverty. And that's why we prioritize projects focused on those most vulnerable, including those in regions affected by climate change, gender inequity, human trafficking, and forced displacement. And finally, we believe in the strength of collective contributions. One Day's Wages was specifically founded on this beautiful belief that each of us can make a difference. Everyday, ordinary people, starting with a contribution of just 1 day's wage towards this work. We also believe that program participants have valuable contributions to make as well. So we prioritize funding projects that leverage community-generated resources. So those are some of the guiding principles that we have that help us craft our response and build effective partnerships in this work. They're very special to us, and I hope they're meaningful for you to better understand. Also in 2024, we leaned into much deeper engagement with our giving community. I'm not a fan of transactional giving. Our team really wants to build a movement, a community of like-hearted and like-minded people around this work. That means we want to invite you into the work and into the mission in really real ways. We want to connect with you. We're looking for different ways to do that. We've had a few different coffee shop meetups in cities. So hopefully there'll be one coming to your town at some point. Just an opportunity to get to know each other face to face and say hello. We also want to listen really well. We try to incorporate in opportunities for you to give feedback through a donor survey. We have a monthly newsletter that we email out, and we're always looking for feedback or for questions or for engagement through that. So if you're not signed up for our newsletter, make sure you check that out. I'll send the link out along with this presentation in the next couple of days. And then we also just want to create spaces where your values and your voice can join in with us. So whether you gave $5 or $5,000, we want you to feel part of this community, and we want you to know that you're part of something much bigger, that we can't do this work on our own, but that together we're making an extraordinary difference. We're grateful for the ways in 2024 that you helped us grow and stay committed to our mission. So that's kind of an overview of 2024 operationally. And now I'm going to invite Daphne, our Global Impact Director, to walk us through some of the key program outcomes from the past year and share a few insights that we've learned along the way from our partners around the world. So Daphne, over to you.
Thanks, Carissa. Well, yeah, as Carissa just shared, last year was one of a lot of listening and learning for us. In my role supporting our programs and partners, I dedicated quite a bit of time to gathering feedback from our partner organizations and also to researching best practices for equitable partnerships, meaning partnering in a way that really encourages local leaders to flourish and doesn't place unnecessary burdens that hold them back. So one of the key learnings that emerged was the need to support more multi-year partnerships instead of just 1 year at a time. And that allows our partners to evaluate the impact of their work on poverty alleviation over time. And it also eases the burden, especially on small organizations, from having to submit so many grant applications each year. So last year, we were able to increase the percentage of our funding that went toward multi-year grants by 300%, which was very exciting. Another of our learnings was the need to make our templates and processes as easy to access and understand as possible. Most of our partners speak many languages other than English, and a lot of them don't have dedicated fundraising staff or staff to focus just on reporting on grants. So we adjusted our grant and report templates using simplified language and also encouraged our partners to share more photos and stories and honest reflection on what's working and what's not working well, because we aim to be as flexible as possible, knowing that their contexts are very complicated and shifting all the time. When we surveyed our partners a few months ago, 82% of them responded that our templates are now easy or very easy to use, which again was very encouraging to us and hopefully for them as well. And then finally, our partners consistently request support beyond grant funding, especially for networking with others and building their organizational capacity. So in response to this need, last year, we launched a new online resource library and quarterly newsletters for our partners. And we also hosted 4 virtual networking and capacity sharing events that offer a platform like this for our partners to learn from one another. Beyond these program level learnings, last year we saw tremendous impact in the projects that we supported. 100% of our partners successfully were able to complete their ODW funded projects and meet their target outcomes. And each project is super unique to the needs and the goals in that community. But a few of the highlights across all of our partners last year were improved maternal health. Among all of our partners implementing maternal and newborn health projects last year, there were 0 maternal deaths. And these projects are in areas where maternal death rates are pretty significant. So that was a huge accomplishment for our partners. Another was improved educational outcomes. On average, 96% of students supported by our partners had increased school attendance. And then finally, we saw just a significant impact in families being able to lift themselves out of extreme poverty. 94% of the people who participated in job training programs are now earning increased income. So those were just a few of the highlights that our partners shared with us from their reports. Our partners also shared with us so many powerful stories over the past year. And one person in particular who stood out to me is Agnes. She's pictured here in the slide holding one of these stoves. As a young single mother, Agnes never had the opportunity to complete her primary education. In her community, boys were given priority and girls were typically expected to marry young. So at the age of 13, Agnes was forced to marry a much older 52-year-old man. Her parents hoped that marrying her off to a wealthy man would benefit her, but instead, Agnes experienced nothing but abuse from that relationship, and at such a young age. So with her 4-month-old baby in tow, when Agnes was just 15, she made the decision to run away from her husband and stay with her grandmother. Her grandmother also lived in poverty, but at least now she was safe. In her new home, Agnes was invited to join a women's agricultural cooperative. And it was through One Day's Wages partnership with an organization called PRHE in Malawi that cooperative members were invited to learn how to make smokeless stoves. These are the ceramic stoves that you see in the photo here. And these stoves use briquettes that are made out of agricultural waste instead of out of like tree limbs to fuel them. And so that means that fewer trees need to be cut down for cooking. And also means that for the people preparing the food, you're not inhaling all that smoke, which typically leads to a lot of respiratory conditions when people are cooking over a really smoky fire for so long. So Agnes quickly caught on and began selling the stoves she made through a local grocery store. With the income she's earning, Agnes now has enough money to provide for her family's daily needs, and she's even providing financial support to her parents who had disowned her initially after she ran away from her marriage. Um, and her biggest dream has now come true. Agnes is now able to afford sending her own child to school, which is a privilege that she did not have growing up. So just a really beautiful story of how, it was a small project. It wasn't a whole lot of money that went into this, but those funds are able to have such a significant and profound impact on communities' lives and individuals within those communities. Well, we're so inspired looking back on what we were able to accomplish last year, but we're equally energized by what's ahead. So now we'll turn our attention to this year, 2025, the goals that we're setting, the partnerships we're building, and the opportunities to deepen our impact this year. Right now, we're in partnership with 20 different organizations that are implementing projects with One Day's Wages financial support. And so far this year, we've been able to approve 3 new partnerships. I'm especially excited about these projects because they really embody our refined strategy and principles that Carissa just shared about so beautifully. The first of these partnerships is a 3-year grant with an organization called Sprodita. Sprodita works in the remote Chitipa district in the far northern part of Malawi and Southeast Africa. And over the next 3 years, Sprodita will be working with 4 primary schools in the area, equipping them with training and infrastructure to improve students' health, nutrition, and educational outcomes. So as that sounds, it's a very integrated project because Sprodita understands that for students to succeed in school, they need things like nutritious meals and safe latrines to use during the school day. And they also recognize the unique needs of adolescent girls who in that area and in much of the world often drop out of school or miss classes when they start menstruating. So through our partnership with Sprodita, they will be installing latrines, water systems, hand washing stations, and school gardens at each of these 4 schools. And they'll also be launching a school meal program for younger students, and then training mothers in the community to make reusable menstrual pads for girls. So that's a lot of different things. And the grants are relatively small with just $30,000 a year. Sprodita will be able to reach over 3,000 students and an additional 3,000 community members who will also be able to use the clean water that will be available on site at each school. Second, we're supporting another 3-year grant with an organization called Garden of Hope Foundation. Garden of Hope's founder and executive director grew up in Kibera, which is one of the largest informal settlements in the world, which are often referred to as slums, but informal settlements is like the preferred word to describe these communities. And they recognize the many barriers that women in informal settlements face, especially when they don't have a steady source of income. So over the next 3 years with our support, Garden of Hope will train 450 women in entrepreneurship and financial skills so that they're able to secure jobs or launch their own small businesses. And their goal is that by the end of those 3 years, 90% of the women will have a formal business plan and experience growth in their business. And then the third new partnership is with PRHE, which is the organization I referenced earlier when sharing about Agnes. This year, we'll be supporting PRHE to come alongside women farmers in rural Malawi who are experiencing the impacts of climate change. PRHE also has a really integrated approach to their work to working toward both financial stability and climate resilience in this community. And through the project, they'll be supporting the women to establish poultry farms for income generation. And then the manure from the chickens will be used to make natural fertilizer that can be applied to their agroforestry plots, which is a method of basically growing vegetables and trees together. And in just 1 year, PRHE anticipates supporting 500 women in this community to improve their nutrition and their income levels. So again, these partnerships wouldn't be possible without the financial support of our donors, but they also wouldn't be possible without the partners and leaders and community members who are also contributing their time and their talents and their resources to make all of this work happen. And
Oh,
I will
Daphne,
turn it back
thank
over. Yeah.
you. Yes, thank you so much. It's so inspiring to be reminded of these stories, and we're just so delighted to be in these partnerships with these incredible organizations. So thank you, because each of you is a part of making this happen, and like I said, your coworkers in this work. So thank you, Daphne, for walking us through that. We're very excited for what's to come. If I was going to simplify our goal for 2025, it's just that we want to say yes more often. We want to be able to come alongside even more incredible partners, these global leaders who are working tirelessly to create solutions to poverty in their own communities. The need, as you know, is immense. We receive funding requests every week from organizations doing courageous, community-rooted work. And while we wish we could support them all, the truth is we can only invest as far as our resources allow. And at the same time, we recognize that there's a lot of challenges for so many of us that we're navigating here at home this year across the United States. The economy feels uncertain. Many are stretched thin, or perhaps just nervous about investing into extra opportunities. But you're here. You're still showing up with compassion, generosity, and a desire to make a difference. And that's why we're so hopeful, because we've seen what's possible when this community comes together. As Daphne shared earlier, in 2025, we're going to continue to invest deeply with the partners that we're already walking alongside. We want to amplify their voices. We want to fund their vision for their community. We want to stand in solidarity with them as they lead change in their communities. Every dollar we invest globally comes from you, our giving community. And so we just want to present to you a few ways that you could continue to be involved in 2025. There's some simple but really helpful ways for you to consider joining us this year in this work. First and foremost, we would just encourage you to share about One Day's Wages with your community and perhaps invite them to join in this work as well. Share about our unique approach and see who gets excited about it. We'd love to connect with your community, whether that's maybe a company that you work at or a school that you're involved with, or perhaps your faith community. So we're always open to those conversations and would just really love to dialogue with your community as you feel excited to introduce us to them. You could also join our Roots community, and that is our monthly giving program. Even $10 a month allows us to plan more sustainably and say yes to more partners with confidence. Knowing what's coming in from our monthly giving community is a huge blessing. There's also a lot of fun ways to get your family involved, or even just to have some fun yourself. Lots of our members of our giving community pledge their birthdays. They'll choose a cause that they're passionate about, and then they'll invite their community to join in on that fundraising effort. And then we turn those gifts into clean water systems and school supplies and job training and whatever's most needed. So that's another kind of a fun way and a small way that just multiplies into incredible impact. We have a really big mission, and it requires a whole lot of us showing up and investing into the work. And in the face of such overwhelming need, it could be really easy to step back, but that's just not who we are. We are choosing to lean in, and so we invite you to lean in with us this year. We choose to believe that compassion is not a finite resource and that generosity is contagious, so that we believe together we can continue to rise up in this moment with hope and with action. I know we've shared a lot of information with you, and we can continue to talk about this work probably all day. I know many of you have given up your lunch breaks, or maybe you are just home at the end of a long work day and tuning in to give your time and attention. We're so very grateful for you. We did want to open it up to some questions. We want to hear from you as well. So some maybe have been submitted, and others we can always email us. I'm just going to maybe get us started with this first question, which is, what is the biggest challenge for 2025? And that is a really, really good question. And I would say two things come to mind for me with that question. One is just on the global front, and that is just this continuing instability in global poverty alleviation work. Our partners are facing challenges that feel every year to get more and more complex. And so the need is just really tremendous. And that can sometimes feel really overwhelming. As much as we count it a privilege to encounter all of these stories and all of the need, it can sometimes just feel like a lot. So I think just one of the challenges is just kind of holding space for all the opportunity that exists for us in this work. Another challenge is simply resourcing those needs. Like I said, we recognize that it's a bit of an uncertain time for a lot of us. And so people can maybe tend to be a little more cautious in their giving, which we totally appreciate. But hand in hand with the challenge of needing to fund this work is also the privilege of having what I kind of refer to as a front row seat to just some of the incredible generosity that comes from people in this community and just across the states in general. There are good and kind humans out there that care deeply about caring for the vulnerable and about investing into poverty alleviation work. So that is really often what sustains us in the face of so many challenges. But like I said, our goal is really simple. We want to say yes more often. So typically what we'll do is, as we raise resources throughout the year, we will, when we get to a certain amount of funding, typically we need about $100,000 in cash, and then we'll open up an application process so that people can and organizations can apply for funding. We want to be really good stewards of the funds that we have, and so we want to be able to make a commitment to, once that approval process has been completed, to be able to wire that first year's funding right away with no delay, so that these incredible organizations can get started or continue on in their work. And we like the organizations to be able to have a few different partners, if you will. We kind of refer to them as cohorts, where there's a few different people that come in and start the funding process at the same time, so that we can create a sense of community in that context as well. So the complexity and the challenge ahead of us is sometimes really big, but I would say that our hope matches that on most days. So thank you for your sensitivity in caring about that question for us. Another question here, if an extra $100,000 arrived tomorrow, which waiting project would you fund first? Great question. As I just mentioned, we tend to hold off on opening an application process until we have about $100,000. And so if we had an unexpected gift arrive, we would simply be able to open that process up sooner, which would be really, really exciting. We have a really robust process as far as how to prioritize projects, and that might be another really good question I can pass over to Daphne in just a minute. But that kind of funding would allow us to say yes right away to more people. So that would be really exciting. Daphne, can I put you on the spot and invite you to answer this next question? With so many funding requests, how do you decide who to fund? That is such a good question. Maybe you can share just a little bit about how we approach that. How do people, yeah, how are they invited to submit an application? And yeah, it's a really big process, and one that we hold that responsibility very close to our hearts. So
Yeah, yeah, and we do get a lot of requests. So it's a really good question. We do have certain criteria that we initially screen for. Things like making sure that an organization has a board of directors, has been around for a certain amount of time, is registered locally, kind of meets like the legal requirements for NGOs operating in whatever country they're in. And that just assures that, you know, we're doing our due diligence of making sure that an organization is respected in their community and equipped with the skills they need to go about this work. After that initial screening, I would say the biggest thing we look for is value alignment. So Carissa went through all of those partnership principles, and we really look closely at each of these areas. So, you know, something like mutuality, we're not looking for an organization that's coming into a community they're not familiar with and saying, "Hey, here's the solution we think that you need for this problem." What we're really looking for is people from within the community who know that context so well and who say, here's what we're contributing. Like maybe we're able, like there was a recent project last year where the community came in and dug fish ponds for women who relied on fishing for their income, but they needed extra cash support from us for purchasing some of the initial inputs that were needed to help the women start doing fish farming on these kind of more actively managed fish ponds. So we're looking for partners that celebrate the contributions of the people that they're working with, that treat them with dignity as people who have skills and capacities and things to contribute, and who are really committed to learning from community members, from other One Day's Wages partners. So it can be hard to assess all those things when we're so far removed from them, but we do have a pretty lengthy process of asking questions and having phone calls to try to gather as much of that information as possible. And then we also go through the details of the requested project in quite a bit of detail. We reach out to others for their expertise when that's needed, if it's kind of an area of work beyond our scope and knowledge. So we end up for shortlisted partners, we probably end up spending about 2 months in conversation with them and ensuring that it's hopefully as good a fit as possible. Yeah.
that's awesome. Thank you, Daphne. It's a long process, but on purpose, so that we can find the right fit for that mutuality and a partnership, and also because we want to steward the funds that are contributing to this work. We want to invest where we feel we can make really great impact, but we also hold it loosely. Like, we're leaning into what does open-handed philanthropy look like, and how do we again shift some of that the leadership back into these local spaces. And so we learn a lot from each other all the time. So with lots of safeguards in place, really leaning into being curious and finding really great fits. So yeah, these were really great questions. I appreciate that. And I know we'll probably have some more coming in later that we can follow up on when we send out the link to today's presentation. So I just want to say thank you again for showing up today, for caring deeply, and for being part of this community. If there's one thing that you walk away from today, I hope it's that your support is creating real and lasting change for communities working to overcome poverty, and that we are so grateful for you. Every dollar that you invest goes directly to these critical projects around the world, blessing families who are working so hard to overcome really difficult circumstances. So just please know that your voice, your generosity, and your presence in this movement matter. And again, if you'd like to connect more deeply through one of the ways that we touched on briefly today, I would just be so excited to chat with you. You're more than welcome to reach out to me. I've got my email address here on the screen. And again, we'll send out links if you'd like to sign up for our monthly newsletter. But we just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here today and for being part of this community. I hope that you were inspired, and we look forward to staying in touch. So have a wonderful rest of your week.